In a world of constant expansion, we may have hit the peak. Debt has hit a record high around the world, nationally, locally, with corporations, with individuals, all finding themselves trapped in an unbelievable amount of debt, which can never be paid back. Who will come to the rescue? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. We're looking at debt breaking through the roof globally right now. Doesn't seem to be any country in particular that can avoid this. And I've said it a million times before, but it is the underlying system itself, which is based upon debt, causing this to begin with. I'm going to move through these quickly. We're looking at the federal taxes in the US setting a record in fiscal year 2015. The feds are still running a deficit of over $400 billion. I continuously, every month, I'm bringing out this information, showing you the updates. And despite the fact that there's constantly more money being brought in through taxation, they're running more into a deficit every single time. This cannot be sustained. You can't keep stealing from your own government, intragovernmental debt, that's what they call it, and have this system continue. The cracks are appearing, things are getting worse, the economy is not doing well. Our jobs are being replaced and eliminated. And despite the government numbers, despite the fact that you might still be employed, many people right now are not. Let's look at this. Well, because the nation is not very prosperous at this time, the elite, the minions of the elite, and the high-level politicians and people would definitely want to cut back on all of their spending. But Judicial Watch obtains records revealing Obama's February and March 2015 Gulf vacations and fundraisers cost the taxpayers $4.5 million in travel expenses alone. So in 2 months, February and March, the Gulf vacations and fundraisers, you're looking at millions of dollars just to get him back and forth. This is insane. Millions of dollars are being spent for absolutely no reason, for his enjoyment. This is unbelievable. It needs to be restricted immediately. If he wants to go on golf vacations, then he can pay for them. There's nothing wrong with that. He should be able to go on vacations. But it shouldn't be on the taxpayers' expense, at least to such a degree. This is ridiculous. But it's not just Obama. It's all of these minions of the system. Can't be done this way on taxpayer dollars and expect this to continue. Let's move over to Canada. In Toronto and Vancouver, hot housing markets, affordability is becoming a growing challenge for many individuals and families. And this goes to show for anybody living in Canada, they know exactly what I'm talking about here. Buying any type of residential property in Greater Toronto is 11.9% more expensive today than it was a year ago. 12% higher in 1 year? That's absurd. It's just unbelievable. It cannot be sustained as well. Look at this here. In Greater Vancouver, residential real estate is up 13% in a year. An average of practically $1 million for the average home. The average home sale going for nearly $1 million. This is crazy, especially when you look at the wages people make, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment here. No wonder an ever larger group of real estate market experts is warning that housing affordability is headed towards a crisis. It was a crisis a long time ago. We're looking at TD Bank saying the problem could soon reverse itself in the form of a slowdown in the housing markets that will end years of house price run-ups in Ontario and British Columbia. Citing signs of extreme weakness in the housing market, TD Bank, the country's third largest mortgage lender, predicts housing markets in Ontario and BC will turn down next year and stay down at least through 2017. Think about the areas that you live in. Are the housing prices going up still? What's driving that? Well, hang on there for a moment. Household debt levels rise to record high in Canada. That's right, we have more debt than ever. But wait a minute, the prices of the real estate are going up. Canadian household debt compared with income rose to a record in the second quarter, highlighting one of the key vulnerabilities to the financial system the Bank of Canada is watching. Here we have the central bank looking at this, and they're not even concerned about it. They're just saying, we're watching it. We're just making sure everything's good. But it's absolutely not the case. This is crazy to think about, that the houses are unaffordable entirely. People are getting the longest dated mortgages they can, and they are paying the insurance, so they only have to put 5% down. They're doing anything that they can basically to get away with this. This is the numbers wise. If you're into the charts, you can see this one, existing home sales, in both the total amount and the percentage changes. And you can see what's happening. A lot of areas are not doing very well right now. And this isn't just what we've had, particularly with Alberta, with the oil crash there. It seems to be everywhere, in fact. And through 2017, they're projecting that things will certainly decline for Ontario and BC. We'll have to see where that goes. Look at this out of my book, Unsustainable Prices. This is for Canada right here. For 20 years, prior to the year 2000, a home would cost about 3 to 4 times the annual median income in Canada. So think about that. Your job, you would have to work, let's say 3 or 4 years, and that would pay for the average house. Today, it's 11 times. And that was statistics, I believe, from probably 2011 when I was writing this. This level is historically abnormal and absurd and can only mean one thing, and that is a bubble. Anyone who denies that it's a bubble clearly isn't paying attention. If you can't afford it, then it becomes a bubble. But bubbles pop. And this is going over to the UK. Bank of England boss Mark Carney yesterday issued a warning about the country's household debt mountain as he weighed up the likelihood of an interest rate rise. So all the countries around the world are pretending that they're going to increase interest rates. Well, they might, but the minimal amount won't have necessarily much of an effect at the beginning, and they can always bring it back down. Carney said, "We are very much aware that there are a large number of people who are carrying a lot of debt. It's one of the reasons why the recession was so deep and why the recovery was so grudging." Yes, that's right. They're claiming, it's past tense, the way that they are saying it, as if the recessions are over. The governor insisted that we're going to go ahead with this rate rise. Don't worry, the people are able to deal with this. It's a complete joke. Household debt has risen to a record $1.47 trillion. Most of that in the form of mortgages, that's right, which has been driven higher by soaring house prices. It's going on in the UK, it's going on in Canada, and it's going on all around the world. Debt is at the highest level it's ever been. So you can have actual ownership of assets through legitimate means, let's say, whether that's, you have that money in the bank or whether it's done in another form, but having the debt or the bank own that house, that's the way it works. When you have a mortgage, the bank owns the house. How sustainable is this? And then we look at this. These are the central banks around the world. There's more if you scroll down. And we're looking at the amount of interest that they charge the commercial banks at this time. They have different names for it: the repurchase rate, base rate, target range, whatever you want to call it, federal funds rate. And you can see certain nations have much higher interest than others. Some of them even have negative interest rates in order to boost the economy. Look at Sweden, for example, bringing interest rates into the negative in order to keep this system afloat. It's not going to work. Countries with higher levels of inflation have to have higher interest rates. This is the way that it works. And we can see this right here. And obviously, when you have low interest rates from that particular government, let's look at Canada, 0.5%, essentially zero. And they're able to then pass that on to the commercial bank. So the commercial banks are giving out variable rate, which I don't approve of at all, but variable rate mortgages under 2%. So basically free money. You want to buy a house, you get some free money. but how long can this go on? And then if they increase interest rates, you might be fine. You might be with your 1.5% mortgage. But in 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road, you have to refinance. And if it's, let's just say, 5%, are you then able to afford it? That's the danger of this, is when the refinancing comes, people are going to be in big trouble. And now we have problems in this economy, and here they are coming to fix it. They're always providing us solutions. I don't like any of their solutions. And this right here is supposedly a solution to one of our problems. Team wants to sell lab-grown meat in 5 years. They did it already. Cost about $200,000, I believe it was. But that doesn't really make this enjoyable at all. They're saying it's going to be better for pollution, for overall costs, for everything if they can just grow meat inside of a test tube and you can eat it. Now, this right here is absolutely disgusting. I think if someone wants to eat it, that's fine with me, that they can do that. However, we're being force-fed the wrong information, the wrong food, and the wrong environment. They're doing whatever they want. Soon, it could be that this is the only option, whether because of affordability issues, inflation prices, or because this starts to displace the traditional farms that we've seen, or the factory farming that we have now. This is just one example of what they're doing, and I don't like it at all. I'm going to speak up about it every time I see it. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you go over to Amazon, you can flip through the book, The Money GPS. They have this look inside feature, which you can flip through the pages to see if you like it. Take care.